Een hele goede middag allemaal en welkom bij de Portland webinar hoe we jullie een high performer met BCDR gaan maken. Voordat we beginnen, laten we even een test doen of iedereen ook mij goed hoort. Dus als jullie graag in de chat willen aangeven of jullie mij allemaal goed verstaan, dan zou dat top zijn. Dan kunnen we vanzelf gaan starten. Dus ik wacht even 1 minuutje. Ik zie nog geen berichten in de chat. Top. Ik denk dat ik goed verstaanbaar ben en dat jullie me ook kunnen zien. Dus dat is top. Voordat we gaan beginnen zou ik in ieder geval bij de basis beginnen. En dat is wel zo netjes om mezelf voor te stellen. Mijn naam is Lucas Doop. Ik ben een MSP Solution Advisor binnen Portland. En ik spreek zo gemiddeld 50 MSP's per week. Nou, deze MSP's help ik op zowel commercieel als technisch vlak. Met als einddoel ze winstgevender te maken. Hoe we dat bij Portland doen, daar zal ik later even op terugkomen. Maar laten we eerst met de feiten beginnen van vandaag de dag. De gemiddelde schade van een ransomware-aanval bij een middelgroot bedrijf is 1,7 miljoen. En dat zit hem voornamelijk in, is dat de gemiddelde downtime bij zo'n succesvolle aanval 23 dagen is. Stel jezelf maar eens voor, als je zelf als MSP'er zo lang uitlicht, of je grootste eindklant, wat er dan voor schade kan komen. Vaak als ik dit soort feiten met mijn MSP's deel, dan is vaak het sentiment van, nou dat zijn bij de grote bedrijven op de Zuidas bijvoorbeeld. Niks is minder waar. 62% van alle actuele aanvallen richt zich dus op het MKB. En dat is jullie doelgroep. Dus dat is zeer actueel. Helaas hebben we nog meer pijnlijke feiten uit de markt kunnen halen. En dat is dat 1,2 miljoen incidenten in Nederland vorig jaar 2025 een stijging had van 38%, wat zich realiseert in 1,2 miljoen incidenten. Hackers richten zich voornamelijk op identity en remote access. En deze doet misschien wel het meest pijn. En dat is dat de MSP als vector nu zelf ook slachtoffer is. En dat is 48% van de MSP's. Nou, deze feiten resulteren eigenlijk dat een reactief beveiligingsmodel niet meer langer voldoende zijn. En daarvoor moeten we een transitie maken. Het oudste product van de MSP's is denk ik wel het traditionele backup. Backup bewaart namelijk data, maar het redt niet het bedrijf erachter. De nieuwe standaard focust zich voornamelijk op 15 minuten RPO en een 1 uur RTO-time. Dat is super belangrijk om uiteindelijk niet alleen maar de data te beveiligen, maar het redt ook jouw klant en uiteindelijk ook jouw reputatie. Super belangrijk natuurlijk. De reden waarom wij dus voor deze nieuwe standaard hebben gekozen, is omdat Action hiervoor alles in staat stelt. Om deze beloftes waar te maken, heeft Action de daadwerkelijke technologie in staat gesteld om dit ook waar te maken. Zij richten zich volledig op een chain-free technologie. Ze hebben een auto-verify en ze focussen op de airgap. Dit is allemaal wat André van ConnectWise jullie straks meer gaat vertellen. Maar voordat we dat gaan doen en voordat we in de tools gaan duiken, wil ik jullie wat meer vertellen over de Portland. Want Portland staat niet alleen meer als standaard software distributeur, maar wij helpen MSP's zoals eerder benoemd winstgevender te worden. Dat doen wij met het High Performance MSP programma. Wat wij hierin doen, is dat wij een volledige analyse van de MSP gaan neerzetten. Vervolgens benchmarken wij deze analyse tegen andere MSP's. En laten wij in dezelfde meeting eventuele winstlekkage zien. Zoals net benoemd, dat is dus een programma en we starten daarmee nooit een offerte. Het zal nooit eerst betalen zijn en dan pas aan de slag. Wij willen namelijk eerst zeker weten of we jou op voorhand kunnen helpen. Daarmee starten wij met een gratis en vrijblijvende benchmark sessie. Vanuit daar kunnen we besluiten of jullie de daadwerkelijk winstgevend kunnen behalen. En in mijn optiek zijn er altijd 2 uitkomsten. Of we komen erachter dat jullie het al fantastisch doen. Of we komen erachter dat er nog wel kansen zijn om winstgevendheid te verhogen. In mijn optiek een win-win situatie voor de MSP. En onderdeel hiervan is dat we jullie meer willen laten verdienen op de klanten die je al hebt. Je klanten besteden gemiddeld maar 5% aan security. Het is niet dat klanten hier niet geld uit aan willen geven, ze begrijpen het alleen nog niet. Dus wij helpen jullie om de meerwaarde van security te visualiseren naar jullie eindklant, zodat ze daadwerkelijk begrijpen waar ze ook in investeren. Dit doen we vervolgens in het volgende programma. Wij helpen jullie eerst met de salescyclus van 22 dagen te verlagen naar 6 dagen. Vervolgens kijken we naar jullie toolset om ervoor te zorgen dat we jullie toolkosten zo laag mogelijk houden. En dat zullen wij elk kwartaal blijven doen. Het rode draad van dit programma is dat we elk resultaat elk kwartaal gaan benchmarken. Zodat we niet alleen maar sturen op het onderbuikgevoel wat we hebben, maar ook daadwerkelijk op cijfers. Zodat we weten waar we het over hebben. En eerlijk gezegd, de impact die we al zien bij onze bestaande partners is echt insane. We zien een potentieel van 750k bij onze MSP-partners. En dat is onderverdeeld in deze 4 pijlers. De eerste zit hem bijvoorbeeld in kostenbesparing. Hoe kunnen we jullie huidige tools nou goedkoper inkopen, wat een besparing van 25 tot 50k kan opleveren? Met de nieuwe propositie die we bouwen en visualiseren, komt er een nieuwe omzetpotentieel bij, van tussen de 25 en 50k. Door te automatiseren kunnen we FTE besparen en op operationeel vlak willen we jullie beheerlast verlagen, wat gemiddeld met 20 tot 40% kan. Zo ziet de roadmap dan voor ons High Performance MSP-programma eruit. Ik blijf hier niet te lang in hangen, want uiteraard hebben we de webinar over Actioned. Maar zoals eerder benoemd start het altijd bij een nulmeting en dat noemen wij de benchmark sessie. Vanuit daar gaan we de kansen spotten en zullen wij een jaarlange traject voor jullie gaan ontzorgen om uiteindelijk die High Performance MSP te worden. Ik zou zeggen, dit is mijn spreekbeurt, maar als dit je interesse heeft gewekt, scan dan voornamelijk de QR-code en plan een afspraak bij ons in. Dan starten we vanuit daar de benchmark sessie. Dankjewel hiervoor. Dan zou ik in ieder geval nu graag richting Danny willen gaan. Even kijken.
Hoi Lucas.
Kijk, daar is hij. Danny, top dat je tijd vandaag voor ons maakt.
Ja, geen probleem.
Ik zou in ieder geval mijn scherm om te stoppen met delen, zodat jij er aan de slag kan. Als je zou willen met een introductie, dan geef ik hem over aan jou.
Ja, dankjewel.
Fantastisch.
Snelle introductie van mijn kant. Ik ben Danny Beemans. Ik ben Director Sales EMEA voor ConnectWise als partner van Portland en deze. Ik kom zelf uit Zuid-Nederland, zoals de meeste mensen zullen horen. Maar ik hoop dat ik toch verstaanbaar ben. Anders hoor ik het graag in de chat. Voordat we met André verder gaan over de details rond BCDR, willen we een beetje aangeven van wie is ConnectWise en welke visie hebben we nu, wat hebben we eigenlijk ontwikkeld en wat zetten we nu ook samen huidig en ook vooruitgaand met Portland in de markt. Als we kijken, en we beginnen altijd, wie me een beetje kent, die weet, ik begin altijd met een bold statement en in deze is het ook, de MSP growth equation is breaking. Dus het groei-vergelijkingsmodel van de MSP op dit moment, die stokt. De groei die wordt meer gerealiseerd door meer personeel aan te nemen, wellicht meer tools te gebruiken, om zo ook de complexiteit van de markt, om die ook op te vangen. En die rekensom die begint te scheuren. AI verandert alles wat we doen, dus ook als MSP. En de MSP van vandaag zal ook moeten veranderen om over 1 of 2 jaar nog rendabel te kunnen zijn. Dan moet ik even naar de volgende. Als we ook zien wat er op dit moment in de markt gebeurt met de MSP. Denk maar eens terug aan de laatste keer dat het aantal endpoints welke jullie managen aanzienlijk toenam. Nou, wat gebeurde daar operationeel? Je kreeg meer meldingen, je kreeg meer patchcycli, je kreeg meer tickets. Dus meer tijd die je technici besteden aan het triage en het oplossen van problemen. De klanten zien er niks van. Ze zien alleen dat hun probleem is opgelost en wellicht hoe snel het is. Maar ze zien niet wat er achter de schermen allemaal gebeurt. Dat daar meer mensen, meer dingen moeten gebeuren. Dus de druk bij de MSP is er en die stapelt zich ook op. Dit is de uitdaging die ook, waar elke MSP ook mee te maken heeft of krijgt. En daarom is het gesprek over die toolings is ook zo belangrijk op dit moment. Terugkijkend naar de high performance tool van Portland, maar ook de tools die wij als ConnectWise kunnen aanbieden om die MSP business te beheren. En je beheert tegenwoordig ook meer endpoints dan 2 jaar geleden. Je hebt meer klanten, je hebt meer meldingen, meer beveiligingsdreigingen. En de verwachtingen van je klant die zijn ook niet langzaam meegegroeid. Hè. Die zijn echt wel, de verwachting van die klant is zeer hoog. Dus het probleem is dat het traditionele antwoord daarop was altijd, zoals ik al zei, meer personeel aannemen, meer tools gebruiken, om zo die complexiteit op te vangen. Maar die rekensom die begint te scheuren en meer werk betekent niet automatisch dat je ook meer winst gaat halen. Het kan gewoon echt meer druk op je team zetten. En waar we vandaag even kort over willen praten is dat stuk. En dan zullen we wat dieper gaan over BCDR. Maar hoe kun je nou als MSP dat patroon, hoe kun je dat berekenen met de tools van ConnectWise? Want uiteindelijk gaat het erom niet welke MSP het snelst groeit qua mensen, maar welke MSP het best die nieuwe technologieën, AI-technology kan omarmen en die efficiëntie kan verhogen, dus intelligenter werken. Als we dan kijken, de huidige wereld van de reactive IT.
Sorry Danny dat ik je onderbreek, maar heb je je scherm gedeeld even voor de zekerheid?
Oh nee.
Ik zit aandachtig te luisteren naar je, maar ik denk volgens mij gaat het fout met het delen. Nee, geen probleem.
Ik had het mooi geklikt, maar moet je me al even zeggen of je zo meteen iets ziet. Ik blijf draaien. Zie je nu?
Hij is aan het laden inderdaad.
Ja?
Ja, fantastisch.
Oké. Nou, die slide zullen we dan skippen die we eerder hadden. Maar dat doet niks af van het verhaal, denk ik. Dus de huidige wereld die we nu ook zien van die reactive IT. En hier kun je ook zien hoe die verandering daar in de praktijk ook uitziet. En wat er verandert als het platform goed is. Dus aan de linkerkant zie je dus de onkoppelde tools. Die geen context delen. Die geen gezamenlijke waarheid hebben. Die geen gezamenlijke database hebben. Wat ook wel leidt tot handmatige overdrachten. Als je meerdere tools hebt, meerdere schermen, meerdere dashboards, dan moet je ook handmatig gaan skippen. En dat kan natuurlijk ook pijnlijk en foutgevoelig worden voor engineers. Je hebt ook reactive tickets, je hebt beperkte zichtbaarheid. Als mens documenteer je niet altijd alles wat je doet in alle details. Dus dat is natuurlijk ook iets. En dan het werk stapelt zich ook op. En er komen meer en meer tekens en klanten. Wat weer leidt tot overbelasting van diezelfde technische mensen. En dat is geen beschrijving van een falende MSP. Dat is de beschrijving van hoe de MSP op dit moment eigenlijk met de verschillende tools, met de verschillende point solutions die we hebben, hoe die daarmee werkt. En dat is eigenlijk aan de rechterkant wat je ziet met het ConnectWise platform wat we nu gebouwd hebben. Wat we eigenlijk mogelijk maken is eigenlijk die hele verbonden data. Dus dat betekent ook één gemeenschappelijke datapool waar alle tools die daarop boven staan ook kunnen werken. Dan hebben we AI-ondersteunde workflows, we hebben snellere triage, we hebben betere context. En het eindresultaat is eigenlijk dat we operationeel klaar zijn voor automatisering en opschaling. Waardoor de MSP natuurlijk ook kan groeien. En het is niet theoretisch, het is geen presentaties only. We hebben het vandaag al, het werkt vandaag al. En we kunnen het ook aanbieden via Portland. Dus echt die intelligent, predictive platform die we gebouwd hebben. En als je dan kijkt, uiteindelijk gaat het erom, de zakelijke resultaten, daar gaat het uiteindelijk om. Want het gaat niet om de technologie die we aanbieden, maar wat kan ik er nou mee als MSP? En dat is natuurlijk, wat we willen laten zien, is ook dat wat betekent dat voor mijn bedrijf en hoe kan ik dan het bedrijf ook laten groeien. En je ziet hier de tijd voor het afhandelen van tickets wordt met meer dan 45% verminderd. En van onze kant uit is dat ook nog een redelijk voorzichtige schatting. Je ziet ook minder tickets door slimme automatisering. De tickets die daadwerkelijk door de engineers wellicht handmatig moeten worden opgelost. Dat is ook veel minder geworden. Je kunt heel veel dingen kun je automatiseren, kun je autonoom automatiseren. Dus het aantal mensen dat naar een ticket kijkt en ook het aantal tickets op zich wordt sterk verlaagd. En het belangrijkste natuurlijk voor de MSP-eigenaren is een verbetering van de marge door de uitgebreide operationele capaciteit. Dus de uitdaging die elke MSP heeft, waar we tegenaan lopen, is ook hoe kan ik mijn bedrijf laten groeien Nou, je ziet hier echt die margin uplift die er ook in zit. Nou, als we dan kijken van, we hebben als ConnectWise meer dan 100 miljoen geïnvesteerd in het opbouwen van dit platform. En we noemen het ook de Predictive Intelligent Platform. Dan zie je ook dat het bestaat ook uit verschillende layers. En het gaat echt van een verschuiving van reactive IT naar een autonome, op resultaat gerichte operatie. En je ziet dat elke laag eigenlijk bouwt voort op de laag daaronder. Dus je hebt die unified data, wat weer de automatisering voedt. De automatisering voedt weer de intelligentie. De intelligentie drijft weer de voorspellende en steeds autonomer wordende operaties aan. En dat is ook de richting waar de hele industrie naartoe gaat. En dat is ook de basis waarop we ons model hebben gebouwd. Om zeker te zijn dat dat ook geïntegreerd is. Het is niet een samenraapsel van verschillende componenten die we hebben geïntegreerd. Het is echt een fundamentele heropbouw van het platform wat we hebben gedaan. Dus vanuit de basis worden ook alle ontwikkelingen, waaronder ook bijvoorbeeld een BCDR, waar we het zo meteen over gaan hebben, die worden daaruit ook meegenomen. En we zien dan ook alles wat je zo gaan zien in de volgende slide, is ook alle componenten die zijn ook daadwerkelijk vanuit de basis meegenomen in de ontwikkeling van het platform. Dus als we dan kijken naar de volgende, dit is echt de volledige ConnectWise platform, zoals we hem kunnen beschrijven. En je ziet ook onze multi-tenant clouds, schaalbaarder dan ooit. Je ziet de Unified Data Foundation Layer, waarbij je dus dat single database lake krijgt. En iedereen zegt dat van, ja, we hebben een single database. Maar als je allemaal verschillende tools hebt, waar je dan een single sign-on boven hebt, dan heb je niet echt een single data pool. En dat is natuurlijk ook voor je AI-optimalisatie moet je natuurlijk ook een single database hebben, waar die AI ook in kan tappen. En je ziet ook Common UX, we maken alles eenvoudiger, intuïtiever, zodat je ook makkelijker tussen verschillende tools kunt skippen, zodat je ook weet waar je automatisch naartoe moet. En dat dashboards en reports hebben we geïntegreerd, ook weer gebruik maken van die single database layer. En je ziet ook als BCDR zie je daar ook in zitten. En die zit ook middenin. Die is er niet aan toegevoegd of die is niet van bovenaf apart geïntegreerd. Die zit echt van binnenuit, is die ook mee opgebouwd. Vanuit de kern is die ook vanaf het begin meegebouwd. En wat er praktisch betekent is ook dat je BCDR-data, je ticketdata die daarmee verbonden zijn, je beveiligingsdata, je backup-data, allemaal op hetzelfde platform leven en vanuit deze single pane of glass ook gemonitord kunnen worden. Dus we hebben ook security dashboard, maar ook een backup dashboard, waar je ook je business continuity en disaster recovery tool ook kunt zien en monitoren wat er ook allemaal mee gebeurt. Dus dat is echt die pane of glass die we ook waarmaken in ons, het is niet alleen een marketingclaim, het is ook echt iets wat we waarmaken. Vandaag zullen we ook focussen op BCDR, maar houd dit diagram ook in je achterhoofd, want dit is echt wat we bouwen en BCDR is daar een stukje uit. Maar het is gewoon een sterk stuk in een groter geheel. Dus daar willen we ook naar gaan kijken. En ja, ik denk dat we nu ook een deep dive gaan doen op het BCDR-stuk. Dus bij deze André, I would like to introduce you. So he's my colleague from the UK. So we're going to switch to English a bit now. And he's going to do some details on the platform and also do a demo so you can actually see it working, see the UX UI part of it. Hi, Andre. Maybe you can do a quick intro.
Yes, thanks. Yes, greetings, everyone. So my name is Andre Leitch. Obviously, as Danny mentioned, I work with him at ConnectWise. I am a senior cybersecurity and data protection sales engineer. So yes, I'll be here to show you a bit more about the value, the benefits you can get through the ConnectWise platform, especially the business continuity piece. So with that, let me share my screen. Okay, that should be coming through. It is, okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Brilliant. Okay. All right, so we will be talking about the Axient X360 platform. So Axient is a company that we acquired about 2 years ago, specifically for the benefits that they offer. So what if you could eliminate all the different vendors out there from a BCDR perspective? So you can do that with the Axient platform. It is a single platform for reliable, easy to use business continuity and disaster recovery for pretty much all of your MSP use cases. So MSPs can standardize on X360 Recover for advanced data protection, security that goes beyond backups and to meet and exceed stringent service level agreements. So you can stand out against the competition when it comes to faster recovery, response times, disaster recovery, and automation, and so forth. So as you can see on screen, X360 Recover is going to deliver that endpoint backup. So it's going to protect your data for remote employees and satellite offices. You also have the no hardware BCDR option with advanced server backup direct to the cloud. Okay, so that's going to give you full business continuity as well as local backup. You also have the full BCDR service. So for backup, we require an appliance. So it can be a turnkey appliance through ConnectWise/Axient, or it could be one that you repurpose and you install the backup capabilities on. So that's going to give you immutable backups as well as that business continuity. Or as you can see there, the public cloud backups as well too. So you can protect your servers running in Microsoft Azure, for example, in AWS, Google, or even your private cloud with long-term retention. So before we get into the technology, I kind of wanted to start with a bigger picture question. What could your MSP do if backup and disaster recovery wasn't just a line item, but actually a driver of growth? So what we're seeing within the MSP market right now is a shift. So backup used to be something that you had to offer. Now it's something you can build a business around. So as you can see on screen, we've got 4 key points. The first is it's a real revenue opportunity. So MSPs are packaging BCDR as a premium managed service. So something that includes not just backup, but recovery, testing, and continuity planning. So that turns what used to be a low margin add-on into a predictable recurring revenue stream with some strong margins. The second one, as you can see, is increased customer retention. So when you own backup, you're supporting IT, but when you own recovery and continuity, you're supporting the business itself. And that's a very different level of dependency, and it makes your clients more sticky or much less likely to leave. Third, you have rising client expectations. So client demands have significantly shifted due to things such as cyber insurance requirements, compliance pressures, and just general awareness of ransomware, for example. Those are pushing clients to ask harder questions, not just are you backing up, but how fast can you recover? Can you prove it? Are we compliant? And the fourth one, as you can see, is all about efficiency. So a lot of MSPs are still spending time manually checking backups, troubleshooting failures, and trying to manage multiple tools. But a modern BCDR platform automates a lot of that when it comes to verification, testing, alerting. So your team spends less time maintaining backups and more time delivering value. So value is the key driver here. So when you put all these things together, backup stops being a necessary cost and it starts becoming something much more strategic. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So this is where MSPs are separating themselves. They're moving from selling storage to selling recovery and continuity. So this slide really captures the shift that we're seeing in the industry. So most MSPs are still operating somewhere on the left, but the ones who are growing fastest have moved to the right. So traditional backup has been treated as a cost center. So as I mentioned, it was often bundled in, it was priced low to stay competitive. It's reactive, so no one's thinking about it until something breaks, until you need to restore something. It also requires manual oversight, so checking those backup jobs, fixing failures, managing alerts, for example, and stitching tools together. And that's where kind of backup babysitting as a term kind of came into the picture. All right, so you're spending time maintaining something that doesn't really drive revenue. Now compare that to the modern BCDR approach, which is on the right, and backup becomes part of the broader business continuity service. So you're packaging it with backup, disaster recovery, testing, reporting, all within a clear offering. It's going to be proactive because you're not wasting time looking for failures, you're continuously validating that the recovery process works. And then automation would replace a lot of the manual effort, especially around verification and disaster recovery testing. So once again, instead of selling storage, you're selling the outcomes, which is uptime to the company, recoverability, and resilience. And that's also where MSPs start to differentiate themselves within the space. Okay, so here's kind of a high level view of what the X360 product is. So you can see on the left, you have the direct to cloud deployment option. On the right, you have the appliance base. And then in the middle, that's where the cloud infrastructure exists. So the X360 product supports multiple environments, whether it's Windows, Mac, Linux, support NAS devices, as I mentioned, also to your VMs that would run in the public or private clouds, for example. It supports VMware and Hyper-V. So there are many different technologies that are supported. So direct to cloud on the left, that's going to be your hardware-free backup that's created to protect remote endpoints without the expense, once again, of the maintenance, the on-site visits, and the limitation of having an appliance, for example. So we have a key technology underpinning our solution, which is called chain-free. I'll talk about that later. But those chain-free image-based backups are sent directly to the Axient cloud, as you can see in the middle, the top middle. And that's secure for quick recovery from anything from a single file to an entire system in just an instant. And the speed of the recovery and responsiveness is facilitated by what's called local cache. So local cache allows you, from a direct-to-cloud perspective, to use any local device, whether it's a NAS device or a USB drive, and it's going to store the raw data for those snapshots on that device. And when you perform a recovery job from direct to cloud, just the instructions from the snapshots in the cloud will be downloaded or pulled over the internet. So it's not a massive data set we're pulling over the internet, which means that you have more reliable and faster recoveries with direct to cloud, and you're not challenged by your internet connectivity speed. Okay. And then you have on the right, you have the appliance-based approach. So this is going to be for organizations that do require infrastructure. So it's built on the same chain-free backup technology that I just touched on. Excuse me. And it's going to provide, once again, as you can see, your comprehensive local recovery, your instant virtualization, and it is hardware agnostic. So as I said, you can bring your own hardware once it meets the requirements, install the appliance ISO, and that can function as your BCDR appliance. So you save in a few euros in that particular case. All right, so the choice is really yours. It's the flexibility. You can choose to have direct to cloud, appliance-based. You can have a hybrid of both. You can do local backup and recovery with an on-site appliance. You can replicate to your own data center or your customer's data center and replicate to the Axient cloud. It's very, very flexible, as you can see. So let's delve in once again at a high level at where a difference is made with respect to X360 Recover. So as you can see, many different environments, many different file formats, we can support those. And some of the key technology I'm going to cover is that chain-free backup, auto-verify, for example, the disaster recovery as a service, which is virtual office, and things like air gap. And I'll show you some of the recovery options within the platform. So the first one we take a look at, which is very key, is air gap. So air gap is going to give you that protection from ransomware, or what we call immutable data. So what air gap essentially does, it's a feature that separates, as you can see on screen, the request to delete the data from the mechanism that actually deletes the data. So essentially, there are multiple layers that we have from a security perspective, whether it be honeypots that give the threat actors the impression that they've accessed the snapshots, for example, multiple human verification layers, time delays and other mechanisms. So making it extremely difficult for unauthorized users to actually delete those snapshots and those backups. And once you're authenticated and validated, then by reaching out to the Axient staff, you can then get those jobs completed. And you've also got a failback mechanism. So for example, if you unintentionally deleted a snapshot, you can contact the Axient team and say, hey guys, I made a mistake, no problem. They can actually get you back that snapshot as well. So it's quite resilient from that perspective. This is enabled by default as well too. So everything I'm going to show you is not an add-on, it's built into the platform. Next, we have our patented chain-free technology. So we're the only ones in the industry who've got the patent for chain-free technology. And I'll explain the difference between chain-free and chain-based. but chain-free backups will free your team and reduce time wasted on manual tasks and chain management. So most of the vendors, whether it's Veeam, Acronis, Datto, the others in the space, many of them, they're using chain-based backups. So with chain-based backups, they will do the same thing as Axient, which is take a first full backup, and they do also take incremental backups. Now, the difference is with chain-based technologies, there's a dependency across those incremental backups. So there's a link between the first full backup, the next incremental, and so forth. So what that means is if you have any kind of accidental deletion, any hardware failure, any corruption, any malware attack, then the chain is rendered unusable. The backups beyond that point of corruption are useless. So that means that you have to create a whole new chain. You got to start with another full backup. You've got to do cloud reseeding. So that process can take days, for example, to complete. So you're wasting time and storage. With the chain-free technology through Axient, you get the first full backup, as I mentioned. We do take incremental backups, but all of those incremental backups are independent. Okay, so what that means is if there's any kind of, as I mentioned, data corruption, hardware failure, malware attack, what we can do is we can just isolate that bad data, remove that, and then you've got the full extent of that data set available to you. So there's more robustness, more efficiency, and more speed in terms of your recoveries built into the technology. And as you can see, you don't have to do any cloud reseeding. There's no need to reboot the agent, for example. There's more efficient usage of the capacity on the appliance because we're not, as I said, it doesn't require massive data as you would have cloud reseeding. So you can actually use more of the storage on your appliance for the raw data or for the snapshots. But it's also going to give you as well, it's going to allow us to offer some benefits. So customized retention policies, for example, as well as we're then able to also offer pooled cloud storage to Axient partners. So for every server license, you're allocated a certain number of terabytes in the Axient cloud, and that's pooled across all your customers. So once again, you can scale up and down based on the requirements for your customers. So auto-verify, I spoke a bit about verification being part of a modern BCDR approach. So auto-verify is built into X360 Recover, as I mentioned, and this is going to be essentially backup monitoring with auto-verification. So it's going to monitor the performance of the snapshots. They're going to do this on a nightly. So essentially what happens is the most recent snapshot, the Axient agent is going to spin up that particular snapshot in the Axient cloud and run a bunch of tests on it. So it's going to be, as you can see, it's VSS check, heartbeat check, check this, and so forth. And once all those tests are passed, it's going to present to you in the portal a snapshot of the login to that VM. So you've got 100% verification that there will be no problems with restoring this snapshot. So it's giving that peace of mind to the customer. The last thing you want is you think you're taking backups, you think the integrity is there, you go to try to recover, and this corruption or the backup isn't there for some reason. This makes sure you get that peace of mind. And you can also include this screenshot in the reports that you send to your customers, which kind of validates the service, the value add that you're bringing to them. Okay, so this is an automated process. It's not something you have to configure. It's built into the technology. Another key aspect of the platform is what we call the virtual office. So the virtual office is your disaster recovery as a service. So this is within the Axient cloud. So it's an always on self-managed failover recovery feature within Axient X360 Recover, so that you as an MSP have that flexibility, that optimization, and that peace of mind that you can keep your companies, your clients' businesses running whilst you deal with whatever business continuity or disaster situation they have. So within the virtual office, you can see it's secured. You would specify the resources that the customer needs to virtualize, for example, and then you configure how the customers would actually create connections or log into those systems. And once you've got that created, then off you go. You can actually run individual machines or entire customer's environment from that virtual office. But another key benefit is the ability to perform regular backup tests. So a couple of benefits of that is that you're demonstrating to this customer by doing regular tests that you're invested in their business. You're not just there to sell them technology. I'm invested in your success, And here's how we do that. We'd actually do backup tests. And you get up to 30 days complimentary virtualization. So there's some vendors out there where you have to pay for compute power, for example, or compute points. With us, you get up to 30 days in the Axient cloud to virtualize an individual machine that you're protecting. So you can set aside a few days, for example, to test some of those machines for the customer. And then if there is a live failover situation, you've got 20, 25, 26 days that you can virtualize that customer's environment at no additional cost. So it's very, very useful. And the last thing we cover before we jump into the technology is the runbooks. So the automation side of things. So when you're doing DR testing, you should make use of the runbooks. If you want to be able to efficiently do your DR testing and also to qualify for things like cyber insurance, you need to have to configure your runbooks to mimic your customers or your client's specific infrastructure. And the great thing about the runbooks is it helps you to meet your recovery time objectives for your customer. So you want to have an automated process where within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever the time period is, you can quickly virtualize that environment for that customer. There are many MSPs that I speak to who, when it comes to virtualizing their customers' environments, they're relying on a manual process. In some cases, they're using an Excel spreadsheet with the information they need to try to virtualize that environment. So with runbooks, essentially, you are scripting out how you want to virtualize that customer's environment beforehand. And if that live failover situation does occur, you simply go to the customer's portal, you click on the runbook, and automatically, as you specified, that environment is going to be virtualized as per your configurations. Okay. All right. So let's I'll end the slide deck there, and then we'll take a look at the platform. Okay. So let me just confirm I'm still sharing my screen. Yes, I am. Okay. All right. So here is the Axient portal. Now, before I jump into that, I'm just going to tag back to what Danny mentioned about the platform. So this is the ConnectWise platform. And as I mentioned, you've got all the different functionalities to run your business as an MSP. So you've got the ticketing side of things, service delivery. You've got your RMM functionality, for example, efficient management. You have your data protection I'll touch on. You've got all your security elements here. So you have a nice overview of the security posture of your customers, and you can filter and monitor and manage that information. So security dashboard and data protection dashboard, they come as part of the platform. You don't have to, it's not an add-on, for example. And as Danny mentioned, you've got your automation, so your workflows, your bots, for example, your scheduled tasks, and then you've got lots of reporting built into the platform as well. So once again, that single pane of glass is where you kind of manage and monitor everything. So the backup dashboard, now it's not restricted to just ConnectWise products. There are a number of other vendor solutions that you can integrate. But what this is going to be really useful for is for you to visualize across all of the backup technologies and for your customers, the health of the backups, what you need to pay attention to, what's right, what's wrong, what needs to be managed. So for example, you can see here the protection status, you can see DR readiness, you can choose to, sorry, here we go. You can choose to view different backup products. You can filter by company, for example. So you can pretty much manage it quite well from here. You can see also to your SaaS protection as well. And then you get a good overview of the health, the backup status for your customers. And also to, as I mentioned, it's not just backup, you're showing that you've got a BCDR comprehensive solution. So you can come here without going to the Axient platform and confirm that if there's a disaster situation, I've got the screenshot verification. So Mr. Customer, you don't have to worry about the ability to recover those snapshots. Okay. So that's your backup dashboard within the ConnectWise platform. So the Axient technology, or the Axient as a company, is well known for its support. So, you know, you can quickly get in contact with a technician if you've got any issues. You've got the support option here. There's tons of marketing content as well too. I think this is really useful as well, schedule live training. So essentially, irrespective of which stage of the relationship you are with ConnectWise and Axient, you can get the help you need when you need it through schedule live training. So it could be during onboarding, it could be I'm 3 months in, I've had to pay attention to the business or other projects, I'm a bit behind in my knowledge. Let me jump in the schedule live training set the agenda, and book some time with an Accent trainer who's going to get me up to speed and answer all these questions that I have. So I think that's a really positive value add. There's no restriction in terms of the frequency or the number of times you can do this. As you need this capability and this support, you log in and you get that from the Accent team. Another cool thing is that they've documented as well pretty much everything you would need. And the reason I like to show this is because we've got not only nice onboarding videos, but a recovery playbook. And the reason I'm highlighting this is when you are about to perform a recovery option, or you get a call from your customer, you want to manage that particular situation efficiently, effectively. You don't want to have to be, navigating a tool to find the right technology or feature to use. You don't want to have to be searching online for instructions and so forth and support. You want that all documented here. So everything is documented in terms of the recovery method you need, when to use it, how to access it, and documentation, but also to these useful maps here are provided so you can quickly and efficiently get to use the functionality that you need to use. So for example, let's say you want to recover file and folders for a customer. You just follow this path. Where you're restoring it from is from the Cloud Vault without local cache. Okay, how many files and what the sizes of those files? It's just a few of those files. Brilliant. Just mount it in the platform, download those files, send it to the user. Actually, I want to maintain the file and folder permissions that are quite complex for this customer. Not a problem. iSCSI is the most appropriate option. So you want to make sure that, once again, you can fulfill the recovery time objectives for that customer, but also demonstrate that you are professional, you understand how to perform BCDR as a service. I just want to show that there as well. So here's the management dashboard. If I click onto the product itself, X360 Recover, as you can see, we also have a solution for SaaS backup, but everything here is geared towards how MSPs work. So you want to be clicking on as few tabs and pages as possible. So most of the actions you would need can be kicked off from the dashboard. Also, too, you would see this kind of traffic light format or structure to the platform, because when you sign into any console, you have a general idea of why you're signing into a console. I might want to see what the alerts are. I might want to see which machines are troubled, or actually, I just need to see which warnings or things I need to be aware of, and you can quickly navigate to that through the traffic light approach. But for the dashboard, very simple to onboard a customer. Simply click here, add the customer's name, and if you want to give anyone at the customer site access, you would enter that here. Then they would obviously have to go through that step of verification. Once you've done that, on the same page, you can download the agent. So select your customer that you added, choose the approach you want, let's say direct to cloud in this case, the operating system, and then the executable will be downloaded shortly. You would also get this token so that you can use that if you're going to mass deploy via an RMM tool, for example, via group policy, MSI, so forth. You can use this token, and that's going to make sure those machines that you deploy to get mapped to the client within the portal. So nice and simple. We're still on the same page. Also on the same page, you've added the customer, you've downloaded the agents. Backup will start immediately because the default policies that Accent has created. But then you can quickly go through the different recovery options or restoration jobs that you would need to perform. So once again, I'll choose my customer, and then you can do your file and folder. You can start a virtual office, as I mentioned. You can even export the snapshots as virtual disk, and you can also do recovery jobs for SQL, Microsoft SQL. So I'll just choose the file and folders in this case. Then you can then browse the files and folders. Okay, so I'll pick my customer. I choose a protected system. You then choose your recovery point. And then you choose the files that you want to restore. I'll just choose any at random. Okay, and once you're happy, you can then download that, as you can see. Right. So once again, in terms from a user experience perspective, you're not navigating through multiple tabs trying to find out what you need to do. It's all presented in the dashboard view. Also, on the dashboard view, as I mentioned, you can quickly filter based on the machines you want to see, for example, whether it's based on health status, the type of system, the type of product, the appliance, client name, you name it. You can be quite granular from that perspective. And as you can see here, you get information provided in terms of why this machine is troubled. You've got your auto verify as well too. And you've got this link that takes you directly to that machine. Okay, so everything you need to do is quite simple. If I click on the name of one of the machines I'm protecting, you will see this sidebar that pops up. So we're still on the same page. And I've got, once again, those recovery options specific to that machine. I've got this option here for the auto verify. So even though that's an automated process, if there's some failure with that particular process, then you can step into that in a manual way and run that auto verify. You can configure alerts for that machine as well, but also too, tons more information. So you can see and health status for that resource over the last 30 days and much more information, job history, as well as storage and some other information. Okay. Very useful. All right. The other thing we'll take a look at, as I mentioned, is the virtual office and the runbook. So just close this. All right. So the virtual office, I'll show you how to configure that. How simple it is. You've got virtual office. Here we go. So I've got my virtual office running. We've got a couple machines here, so you can start those machines, you can stop those machines, you can directly log into those machines as well. You can also auto discard those machines as well. But in terms of configuration, it's quite simple. You will add the customer's gateway, for example, and then configure how you want those customers to connect to the environment via VPN. You can set up port forwarding, DHCP, and so forth. And there's tons of information provided to help, excuse me, to help you perform that job. Okay. The virtual office. Then you've got the runbooks, which is once again you scripting out in an automated way how you want that environment to be virtualized if there's a failover for that customer. So I'll walk you through a runbook that we've already created. And once again, this is a way for you to demonstrate to the customer you're invested in their business and the outcomes of their business. You're not just here to back up files and satisfy requests. So as a first stage of recovery and your BCDR plan with the customer, you have an understanding of the resources that they need to virtualize to keep the business running, to reduce the impact of the outages, for example, or the issue. So I'll edit this one to show you what that looks like. So you would know those machines that you need to include as a first stage of virtualization or recovery. You would then specify those resources. So you give it the number of cores, the amount of RAM. You can even specify priority and wait times. So for example, there might be dependencies across those resources, and you might want to spin them up or boot them up in a certain order or sequence. And so you can specify a wait time between the virtualization of those resources if there are dependencies across those machines. And you can also assign priorities to those different machines. Okay, so it's really mimicking the customer's environment, as it were. So once you've done that, you then do the network configuration. So the customer's network. And then once again, as I'd shown you with the virtual office, you specify beforehand how users are going to authenticate and connect to that environment. Port forwarding, DHCP, and so forth. And once you're finished, as I mentioned, if unfortunately the customer has that live failover situation, you go to the customer's tab within the portal, you select the runbook, you run runbook, and it's going to virtualize that environment as you had specified beforehand. So once again, really demonstrating that value and efficiency and optimization for the customer. Excuse me. Okay, so virtual office, the runbook. Let's take a look now at some of the reporting side of things. So you can create many different types of reports. So they could be very much focused on the data side of things. So appliance summary, virtual office usage, backup summary, for example, and you can schedule those reports on, as you can see here, daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. There is also a very cool report I want to show you, which demonstrates value. So we have an executive summary report. I've got one loaded as well. But this is where you can send this out, let's say on a monthly basis, for example, or part of your quarterly business reviews, so every 3 months, and help the customer understand, once again, let me just load this one here. All right, help the customer understand, what the usage is, the health of the backups, data usage, for example, time spent, as well as showing them growth over time. And as I mentioned, you can also include in this report, what I think is a big differentiator, this auto verify screenshot to give them, once again, that peace of mind as a business. If anything happens within our environment, I'm confident that I can restore these machines without any issues. So very, very important for you to demonstrate the value add to the customer through the reports. All right. So let us go to some of the capabilities. So in terms of recovery, we can do file and folder, as I mentioned. We can do restoring, exporting to VMs, for example. We can also do iSCSI. So I'll show you some of those capabilities. I'll show you the downloads tab because here's where you'd find some other cool features. So there's a bare metal restore. There is the direct restore. There's also a Windows executable called Recovery Center. This is going to allow you on that machine that you log into, so it could be on your customers' machines, for you to directly perform recovery jobs, restoration jobs on that machine. So I'll show you what that is and why iSCSI is so powerful. So let me just start a new recovery option. I'll keep it nice and simple. So let's say we're recovering files for Toledo IT. It's the Dell XPS 8500. You choose your snapshot. All right, so 523, let's choose that one. Direct to cloud, and I'll give it, yeah, D, okay? So that's all good. So what's going to happen to that machine you've logged on locally is shortly with the recovery center, you will see that that snapshot is going to be mounted as a usable disk. So you can kind of browse it and search and operate the same way that you would with a local disk on that machine. But it's also going to maintain the file and folder permissions for those, for the restoration jobs for the users, which is really, really key. So I've actually mounted one before. So we click on this, you can see that I can search this as I would my local drive, for example, and also to if I click on the users, it's going to maintain once again the file and folder permissions for that user, which is really, really, really useful. Okay, and when you're finished, quickly click stop, and it's going to remove that snapshot that you mounted on that device. Okay, so very, very useful in that particular use case. If we go to the protected systems, they're all listed here, as you can see. And if I pick the Dell again, I'll show you how simple it is to use. So you've got all your snapshots. You can mount, as I mentioned. So if you click mount, it's going to load those files in the file browser, and you just navigate to that file, download it, and share it with the user. You can export, as I mentioned, those VMs. So all the major formats are supported. If you want to go the FTP route as well, so install the client, you get the credentials, and for fast transfers of files, you've got the FTP option as well too. Okay. The last thing I would touch on is the policies. So backup policies and retention policies, which are really, really key, because not every customer, once again, you're offering a service for the customer, not every customer is going to have the same requirements from a backup perspective. So you can get quite granular and specific with those policies. So you can create your own backup policies. So you can either choose to have the classic approach, which is start backups at this time, end them at this time, and here is the interval between those backups. Okay. Or you can say, actually, we need a bit more granularity in our policy. And for this particular customer, we only want to capture data changing across the business days between certain hours. You can set up the backup schedule as well too, the intervals for the snapshots to be taken. And then also to, if there are any bandwidth issues, how do I handle those at the disk level or the network level? So you can quite granular with that as well too, including the retention policies. So you can start with a basic policy, retain snapshots for a certain number of days, or actually for this customer and industry, we need to maintain snapshots over the course of 7 years, for example. And here's how we're going to stagger all of those recovery points for the customer. So recovering all those bases. Okay. All right. So there's a lot to cover, obviously, in the technology, but the key thing to understand here is that you're offering a comprehensive, modern BCDR solution. You're not offering backup to your customers, where you're going to be able to grow margins. You're going to demonstrate to the customer that you're invested in their business and you're making them a bit more sticky, but also you're automating a lot. You're showing value by having resilience, by verification in that process, offering disaster recovery as a service for that customer. So some of the key benefits, as I mentioned, is the patented chain-free backup technology, a differentiator within the space. Virtualization within the virtual office, so 30 complimentary days. So that's a peace of mind for yourself and your customers. You've got the air gap functionality, which is going to make sure that those backups are protected from ransomware. You've got the virtual office as well as the runbooks. So the runbooks is you specifying beforehand and scripting out how to virtualize that customer's environment if they have a disaster situation. So I hope that, I know there's a lot we covered, but I hope you found that quite useful. And we'll turn it back over to Lucas.
Yes, thank you, Andre. Amazing presentation and a deep dive into the
Thank you. Yes, thanks very much.
lucky us. So I'm aiming at the audience right now. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if there are any questions, please let us know because Andre is here right now to answer the questions. I don't see any questions yet. Otherwise, after this fantastic demo, if there are questions, you can always reach out to me or to Andre in this case, and we will schedule a new appointment to answer all the questions you have and maybe do another demo. Danny, do you have something else you want to discuss at the moment?
No, that's it. Thanks a lot. It's great to get the opportunity, Lucas. We'll be, or the audience will be hearing more of us from the both of us. So
Probably.
Forward to working together.
All right, Danny, Andre, Legends, thank you for time and for this webinar.
You're welcome.
And we stay in contact. And I'm wishing everybody a nice day. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.